Hi, welcome to the second part of our beginner tutorial series about the various formats in which one can buy stamps. In part one, we dealt with buying single stamps and the variations thereof, and I also gave a very important introduction to this series. So I will put a link to part one in the description below, and if you can, please watch it. This episode is part two of the series. We are briefly going to discover the interesting history of stamp packets, and we're also going to investigate buying stamp packets today. We are going to look at where you can find them, what you can expect of the contents, and the relative price of them, and then quickly touch on the pros and cons. What is a stamp packet? One can define a stamp packet as a pre-assembled and pre-packaged assortment of postage stamps sold together as one group or lot. Before we dive into the stamp packets of today, let's take a brief look at the interesting history of stamp packets. Let's go a bit back into the past. The 1840s and 1850s marked significant developments in the history of postage stamps. The first postage stamp, the penny black, was introduced in 1840. Stamp collecting began shortly after the introduction of the first postage stamp. However, during this period, stamp collecting as a hobby was still in its infancy. Postage stamps were typically sold individually or in sheets by postal authorities or authorized agents. Stamp packets as a specific philatelic item did not yet exist. They likely emerged later in the history of stamp collecting as the hobby became more organized and widespread. The next period is the late 19th century, which stretched from the 1860s up to the end of the century in 1899. Historical evidence suggests that stamp collecting became a widespread hobby by the late 19th century and experienced a surge in popularity. Collectors started seeking ways to acquire stamps from various countries and regions. The origin of stamp packets is not precisely documented, but the concept of pre-packaged stamp packets, as we know them today, emerged during this period. The story of stamp packets is very closely associated with the history of stamp collecting. The exact years can vary, but the late 1800s and the following early 1900s were a time when many people, especially children, started collecting stamps. Stamp packets became popular and were widely sold and subscribed to during this time. This coincided with stamp collecting as a popular hobby. Stamp packets became more formalized. The affordability of stamp packets made stamp collecting accessible for beginners, especially youngsters. The next period is the early 20th century, typically ranging from 1900 up to the end of World War II in 1945. This era involves the continuation of significant growth and development in stamp collecting as a hobby. This can also be called the era of specialization and diversification. It is characterized by the emergence of specialized interests. Stamp packets reflect this trend by offering assortments of countries and regions, but also tailored to specific themes, such as flora and fauna, famous personalities, or historical events. Let's move on to the mid-20th century, which ranged from the end of World War II in 1945 to the 1970s. This era marks the golden age of stamp collecting, characterized by post-war prosperity, technological advancements, mass production, and widespread interest in philately. Concurrently, stamp packets also continued to experience a surge in popularity as philatelic societies, exhibitions, and mail order services proliferate. Stamp packets were still a common format for acquiring stamps. The cost per stamp in packets remained relatively low, making them an accessible option for collectors. Cancel to order or CTO stamps were often included in these packets, contributing to their affordability. I recently got these vintage stamp packages in a large lot of stamps that I bought. So this specific packet is a packet of free stamps, and they say, and I quickly read, the special set of stamps in this packet may be retained by you absolutely free of charge if you purchase from this approval selection totals $1.50 or more. Okay, so this means that they were probably sent by mail order, and the person that got it could choose the stamps that they want to buy, and the ones that they don't buy, they had to send back. It was advertised a lot in, for example, popular books for children. Okay, these specific stamps seems to be mint or unused. Okay. This is a packet of South Africa commemoratives, so it's according to the country. And they are all used stamps, not CTOs though, so they were properly used. Okay. Presidents of the USA, so like a mix between thematic or topical and the country. And they don't seem to be from one set. Also cancelled. There's another lot of used stamps, different stamps from America, and they also give a little bit about the country. And the packets, most of them, I think, cost 10 cents, and I have no idea how much 10 cents was, whether it was expensive or very cheap. And one also knows that the stamps that you got in these stamp packets are most commonly very common stamps. Okay, here are some British Commonwealth, also for 10 cents, so it will be different countries: Canada, Rhodesia and New Zealand, and Fiji, and Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka. Okay, this is more of a thematic collection, and protection of animals, and you can see different countries: Cuba, Australia. Okay, let's quickly go through. This is an interesting one. All the same. Oh, they come from different crown colonies. Churchill issues. And this one was 20 cents, and the stamps are mint, or at least unused. Okay. Rembrandt paintings, so from Yemen, and here you can see this is a CTO, and most probably the others will be as well. Olympic gold medals, this is definitely a CTO, so also a set of CTOs. And I think there were frequently stamps of the Eastern Europe countries like Romania and Hungary and those countries in the stamp packs. Reptiles of Indonesia. Pictorials of Ghana, used. New Zealand dependencies, used. Rwanda Expo 1970. They seem to be mint. Right, let's go quickly. Also mint, Nicaragua Opera, Poland. Mint stamps from Nicaragua animals. And used, I don't think they're CTOs, from Spain. But the stamps were very neat, and that's why the dealers apparently also tended to buy CTOs, because the CTOs were very relatively cheap, and also they were very neat, the stamps, so they were very good for the stamp packets. Bulgaria, Opera, and most probably a CTO, so the others, that's also a CTO. Stamps from that era coming from stamp packets were frequently CTOs, but you can see there was, in this specific sample, there was quite a mixture between used stamps and mint stamps. These were also free bonus offers from another company, I guess. This is also an interesting stamp packet. Nothing, on the back you can see what it is. This is from Chart. And 1961 definitives, and they are used for 30 cents. Last one, same one, from Hungary. Used, they would say used, but these pretty much look like CTOs. So it seems like they would call CTOs used stamps. All of them. Okay, that's it. Vintage stamp packets. I think this will give you an idea what they looked like and how they were sent. And what was in them. Now we are in the late 20th century, ranging from the 1980s to the end of the century in 1999. This era witnesses the beginning of digital technologies and globalization, which transforms the landscape of stamp collecting and philately. The hobby of stamp collecting was the world's most popular hobby for nearly 100 years. However, with the invention of the internet, the hobby declined. While traditional stamp collecting remains popular, the golden age of traditional stamp collecting came to an end. The late 20th century also sees further diversification of stamp packets to cater to evolving collector interests and preferences. While traditional stamp packets remain popular, collectors increasingly turn to online platforms and virtual marketplaces to acquire and share stamps. Stamp packets are just one of the options in which to buy stamps. Collectors started seeking more specialized items. The market saw an increased interest in single stamps, sets, and thematic collections. Stamp mixes, large stamp lots, old collections, and kiloware gained popularity, providing collectors with greater variety and the opportunity to find hidden gems. Let's fast forward to the present and look at the stamp packets in the modern digital era of today. Over the years, stamp packets have evolved alongside the hobby of stamp collecting, adapting to changing tastes and technologies. In the digital age, stamp packets remain in the world of stamp collecting, still embodying the spirit of exploration and discovery. Are stamp packets still widely available today? The answer is yes. Stamp packets are still available, but their popularity has been somewhat overshadowed by the flexibility and customization offered by online transactions. Traditional brick and mortar stamp shops and other stores still carry stamp packets. However, brick and mortar stamp shops are nearly extinct. In their heyday in the 1970s, you could find a stamp shop in nearly every city and town. Someone living in a city had several nearby. Stamp packets are also available through philatelic dealers and at stamp shows. Further, online platforms have expanded the accessibility of stamp packets, making them readily available to collectors worldwide. Websites like eBay, Amazon, and specialized online stamp retailers offer an overabundance of options to choose from. Let's see what we can find with a Google search for stamp packets. So I thought I will show you what happens if you search for postage stamp packets to make sure you don't get the other types of rubber stamps on Google. So I searched for stamp packets, and here are some on that is sponsored, which includes a local trading site, Trade Me. Okay, but here's the first one, Nordstrom. You get a large selection of stamp packets at great prices. So go and have a look. Okay, stamp packets. Stamp packets provide a nice way to expand your existing stamp collection or start an entirely new area of collection. You can choose from hundreds of different country stamp packets from all over the world, or thematic stamp packets including birds, flowers, art, space, and many, many more. So you can see a huge, there are 1,746 items. Sure. So there's one place you can have a look, and then if you go down, IHOP, Cancel Nation stamp packets or mixtures, Graham Land stamps, stamp packets, IHOP again, 100 different stamps of New Zealand. Let's go and have a look. Call it a bargain packet. 100 stamps of New Zealand, off paper, and the price is $5. Let's go back. Here you can buy a New Zealand stamp packet at Orpin, Philately, Whitman, Worldwide Assortment stamp packet, Max Stern and Company stamp packets by country, PGH stamps, eBay, stamp packets for sale. So you can actually on eBay also buy stamp packets. Let's have a look. Okay, thematic stamp packets or stamps by theme. And they also give the price in New Zealand dollars. So it starts at $3.09 to $4.02. Okay, I don't say how many stamps are in there. We have to open. Okay, but you can see, find rare stamps, older world stamps, packets from Stamp Exchange, eBay, Transline Supply Company, stamp packets, and so you can go on. Bulk stamp packets, Renix, and topical foreign US stamp packets at guzerski.com. Okay, so you can see there's really a wide variety, and you can search on many sites and to find the best bargains or the best buys. Let's talk about what's inside stamp packets, especially the role of CTO stamps. You probably heard of CTO stamps. They cancel to order stamps. Basically, they're stamps that postal authorities cancel without using them for postage. Instead, they're typically sold in bulk to dealers and collectors. Historically, stamp packets often included CTO stamps. Back in the day, especially during the mid 20th century, and particularly during the 1970s, CTOs were a significant component of stamp packets. While it might be a stretch to say that CTO stamps were the sole foundation of stamp packets, they did play a crucial role. Stamp packets usually had a mix of cancelled and uncancelled stamps. CTOs made it easy and affordable to include cancelled stamps in these packets without having to acquire used stamps from regular postal usage. CTOs are also often in pristine condition, which collectors love. Nowadays, many collectors prefer genuinely used stamps with clear postmarks and historical significance. So you won't find as many CTO stamps in modern stamp packets as you used to. Stamp packets may contain duplicate stamps, especially if they are designed for beginners or general collectors. Duplicates can provide an opportunity for trading with other collectors. I noticed that many stamp packets today will indicate that the stamps in a packet are different or something like that, indicating that duplicates are not included. Let's compare the content of stamp packets with other ways of buying stamps, like single stamps, kiloware, stamp mixes, and large stamp lots. Knowing what you might get is important to building your stamp collection. Let's clarify duplicates and CTOs. Regarding duplicates, stamp packets may contain duplicates, especially if they are designed for beginners or general collectors. Stamp mixes or large stamp lots can also have duplicates, especially if they come from different collections. Sold by weight kiloware, a mix of cancelled stamps, many still on paper, often has many duplicate stamps. What about CTOs? Historically, stamp packets, especially mid-20th century ones, often included CTO stamps, as they were cheap and easy to get. But nowadays, you'll find less CTOs and rather a mix of cancelled and mint stamps. CTOs might show up in stamp mixes and large stamp lots, depending on where the stamps come from. Kiloware, though, typically doesn't include CTOs. Stamp packets have gone through quite a transformation over time. They emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, mainly targeting beginners and children. Initially, these packets contained cancelled and mint stamps from various countries, regions, and periods. As stamp collecting evolved from the early 20th century onwards, so did the content of stamp packets. By the mid-20th century, they were more specialized, including thematic packets related to specific topics such as animals, history, and sports. In the mid-20th century, packets contained large numbers of CTO stamps. In today's modern era, the internet has revolutionized stamp collecting. Collectors now have a surplus of options. There is a wide variety of stamp packets available. Collectors also prefer genuine used stamps over CTOs. The future of stamp packets is uncertain, but they continue to be a significant aspect of the stamp collecting world. Remember, it's essential to research the contents and buy from reputable sellers. We're now going to talk about the cost of stamp packets, especially in comparison with other formats for buying stamps. The price of stamp packets has changed over the years, reflecting changes in what collectors want and how the market works. While they used to be the go-to for starting collections, nowadays collectors have more choices and prices can vary a lot based on what you're looking for. The price of stamp packets compared to other formats depends on a lot of things, like how rare the stamps are, their condition, what themes they have, how much people want them, and how the seller sets the price. Plus, trends in stamp collecting over time can affect prices too. So, where do stamp packets fall in the cost spectrum of stamps? Well, Broadly, they are usually cheaper per stamp compared to buying individual stamps, which makes stamp packets a budget-friendly option. But stamp packets can be more expensive per stamp than stamp mixes or lots. One should take in consideration that stamp mixes and lots can be all over the map in terms of price, depending on what is included. In choosing, consider your goals. While stamp packets are convenient and themed and generally budget-friendly, they might not always have the rare stamps you're after. So think about what you want to achieve with your collection and how much you're willing to spend. I recently bought a stamp packet at a bookstore in Tauranga. This video became too long, and we will see what we will find in the packet in the next video. What are the pros and cons of buying stamp packets? Pros and cons of buying stamp packets are influenced by various factors, including personal interests, collecting goals, and financial considerations. Let's first broadly look at the pros. Purchasing postage stamp packets is often convenient and can be time-saving, especially if you're unable to visit physical stamp shops or attend stamp fairs. Many online retailers offer a wide selection of stamp packets, making it easy to browse and purchase from the comfort of your home. Collectors who prefer to focus on specific themes or countries can acquire a variety of stamps in one purchase instead of searching for individual stamps. Variety of stamps in stamp packets. Stamp packets often contain a diverse selection of stamps from different countries, themes, or time periods. This variety allows collectors to explore different aspects of philately and discover new topics of interest. On the other hand, stamp packets often feature stamps that revolve around a specific theme, country, or period. This thematic cohesion can appeal to collectors who are interested in building cohesive collections around particular topics or regions. Stamp packets can be affordable. In many cases, stamp packets can offer good value for money, especially when compared to buying individual stamps separately. This is particularly true for beginner collectors or those looking to expand their collection without breaking the bank. The surprise element. Opening a packet of stamps can be an exciting and enjoyable experience, as you never know exactly what stamps you'll receive. This element of surprise adds a sense of adventure to the hobby. Collectors should be mindful of potential drawbacks of buying stamp packets. One potential downside of buying stamp packets is that the quality and condition of the stamps may vary. While some packets contain well-preserved stamps in excellent condition, others may include stamps with damage, faded stamps, or poor centering. Collectors should be vigilant about inspecting the quality of stamps within packets to ensure they meet their standards. They should also attempt to buy from reputable dealers. Secondly, there is a risk of getting duplicate stamps in a stamp packet, except if explicitly noted otherwise, even though, in general, stamp packets aim to minimize duplicates. Apart from duplicate stamps in a packet, depending on the size and contents of a packet, collectors may encounter duplicates of stamps they already own. While duplicates can sometimes be traded or sold, they may also contribute to redundancy in your collection. Sometimes there is a lack of specificity. Stamp packets are often sold as assorted mixes without guaranteeing specific themes, countries, or time periods, offering variety. For collectors with specific interests or goals, this lack of specificity may result in acquiring stamps that are less relevant to their collections. In the online marketplace, there is a risk of encountering counterfeit or reproduced stamps within packets, especially if purchasing from unreliable sources or sellers with questionable reputations. Careful research and authentication are essential to avoid falling victim to counterfeit stamps. Stamp packets typically contain stamps that are readily available and commonly circulated. Collectors seeking rare or unique stamps may need to explore alternative avenues, such as auctions or specialized dealers, to find elusive additions to their collections. How do stamp packets feature for the beginner collector? Buying a stamp packet as large as you can afford is maybe an excellent way to start with stamp collecting. Like everything else in stamp collecting, there is no absolute right or wrong. It ultimately depends on your personality, personal choice, and what you want to do. The most important, to enjoy the process and do what brings you pleasure in the hobby. Digital stamp collecting has gained popularity. During my research for this video about buying stamp packets, I came across mentions of digital or virtual stamp packets. I didn't do extensive research about this, but I could not find specifically a digital or virtual stamp packet for sale on some of the more known digital platforms. What is a digital stamp packet? A digital stamp packet is a collection of digital stamp images or files grouped together for storage, organization, or distribution purposes. It could be a curated set of stamps related to a specific theme, period, or geographic region, like physical stamp packets, but in digital format. A virtual stamp packet encompasses digital stamp packets and potentially additional interactive features or functionalities. It may include virtual representations of stamp albums, interactive stamp displays, or digital platforms for stamp collectors to engage with and explore their collections in a virtual environment. Did you wonder what's inside a digital stamp packet? Let's break it down. There are basically three types of digital stamps you might come across. Digital representation of physical stamps. These are digital versions of physical stamps. They're made for online collections, virtual exhibitions, or even crypto stamp projects. Essentially, they look like the real stamp but exist in digital form. Then there is also digital stamps without physical counterparts. These stamps only exist digitally. They're designed for digital communication, virtual collecting platforms, or as part of NFT collections. Despite not being physical, they still hold value and uniqueness in the digital world. Crypto or non-fungible token NFT stamps. Crypto stamps and NFTs use blockchain technology to authenticate ownership and uniqueness. They like the digital evolution of traditional stamps, bringing the collecting experience into the digital age. Finally, I just want to mention, there are also stamps you can buy online and use immediately for postage. They're not your traditional stamps though. They're more like codes you can use instead of stamps. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for watching to the end. I hope you learned something, and if you liked the video, please like, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. It will help the channel a lot. So thank you again for being here, and so enjoy your collecting until we meet again. Bye.